So I'm both surprised and not surprised by the direction that Philo went in this episode of The Rising of the Shield Hero. If this was any other anime and this was maybe our first introduction to the series, a character like Philo is something to be worried about, because typically you know what anime series like to do with these types of characters. They overly sexualize them, they just don't do anything except make them a trope. I actually like what they did with Philo in this episode, and from what I know, the novel that we're currently adapting from the light novels is a more downtime arc. There isn't as much craziness that's happening. It's a bit more simplistic, so some fans might be a little turned off by this style, but I'm personally having a fun time both last week as well as this week, and I really like Naofumi's behavior, because this party, as small as it currently is, it actually feels like a genuine family, and it's nice to see how Naofumi is kind of opening up and appreciating the small company that he does have around him. Because Philo in this episode, there's really nothing wrong about her character design. I mean, you have a character who essentially can transform into this bird willy-nilly. She has no limitations, but her clothes do obviously rip. You would assume that that would be like an overly focused aspect to the episode, like, oh, let's place her in sexualized shots or do all these things to kind of pander to anime fans, but the most they did with that was make it comedic, and Naofumi didn't get flustered. Naofumi didn't do anything except, okay, we gotta get you clothes. Like, he's that very calm persona who's not oblivious to things. He just says it how it is, and he's gonna get the job done. This is a new party member. He'll get her equipped for the battle. She is an incredible asset in combat. I mean, look at the size of that bird, but he'll obviously not let her walk around naked because he's not some harem protagonist. One of my favorite points in this episode is when she's basically asking hey, are you my father? Because essentially it's kind of like a chick hatches and it sees the first thing as basically its parents, right? So I like how he shuts it down, I'm not your father, I'm your master. He's just I'm shutting this down. And then she asks about Raphtalia and he says well, that's basically my daughter, but it's not important. Raphtalia obviously will get flustered because Raphtalia loves Naofumi in a more romantic way, but Naofumi sees this as a family dynamic. Of course, this is the newest party member. He's not gonna have that kind of love and bond right off the bat saying oh yeah, I'll view you like a daughter as well. It's more of I'm your master, but I'm obviously gonna care for you. Raphtalia has been there from the get-go, and after what she did after he nearly snapped when the spear hero cheated with the help of that bitch in the prior episodes there, I mean, it's clear why he would put her as a daughter status and not this new character right away. But I do like how he's a genuinely good guy with his party, and he's just getting the job done. Throughout this episode, there's so many great moments with him. He's basically discovering ways that he can make money. Sure, the world is against him, but now that he has this bird who can drive his carriage around, he has a free pass to different towns. Essentially, he has a lot of ways to make money. His shield is one of the coolest aspects to the series because he can get all these shields that maybe most of them are pretty useless by themselves, but kind of combined together with his party members. At the end of the episode, you get to see how he has this kind of amplifier, so when Philo kind of screams in it, it makes this obnoxiously loud sound. You'll have him in this episode, he'll enhance the potion to actually cure sick people, which will get him a better pay than just kind of delivering the medicine. There's all these little moments where he gains all these shields. Of course, certain shields are going to be ridiculously overpowered. We're still in the intro stages to this anime and the story overall, so of course he's not going to have some kind of game-breaking shield right off the bat. So right now he's kind of just working with what he has, but all these little shields, they add up to kind of complement his party or complement the job that he just took. I really like how his shield mechanic is so interesting and it leads to so many possibilities. And even though when you see bandits jump him on the street, at this point his party's pretty decent. I mean, they take care of bandits easy peasy, and hell, they even force the bandits to give them all of their supplies. They literally rob the bandits. I love this guy. You don't get to see that. It's such a simple moment and you can pass it over, but the fact that he robs the bandits who tried to rob them and then also threatens to kill them because he's well, if you're gonna just tell the kingdom that I robbed you, I might as well kill you. And I truly believe Naofumi would have killed them if they weren't willing to pay him. I truly believe he would have let Philo eat those bandits, and that would have been hilarious and disturbing all wrapped up into one. This episode, the entire purpose was to essentially get magic thread so she could weave clothing that could transform with her. It's a very simple concept, but over this episode, I really felt we got to know this new character pretty well. Yeah, she has an overly bubbly persona. Her character design is that of the lolly persona, but there's nothing wrong with her character. She's just a very bubbly girl who obviously clearly loves Naofumi in a family dynamic, not a romantic dynamic. That's all I'm asking for here. Don't build Naofumi a harem. Naofumi isn't the kind of guy who wants a harem. If anything, he might love one person, but really, he just wants to get out of this world where his group is going to obviously care for him. And I do like all the simple and funny moments. I mean, when he first brings Philo to the blacksmith, he's basically just saying, like, do you really have to keep showing off your slaves? There's so many simplistic lines in this episode that Naofumi, he's so just deadpan most of the time, and the only time he isn't is in these moments when he thinks no one is watching. Like, there's this moment where basically he's driving and Philo is kind of singing about how she's gonna kick the spear hero again, which I just absolutely love how he now has a companion who's willingly going to kick the spear hero's ass for him because it's gonna make her master happy, and you just see him smile. He's doing it because he feels at peace, he feels safe, there's nothing wrong in that moment, and that's the really only time you get to see it, is when he truly feels safe, he lets his guard down because he believes in the company that he has. In this episode, there's one moment where the monsters in this cave are essentially saying things in the voice that they don't want to hear it in, things such as Philo feeling like her master is going to leave her alone. Naofumi hearing that Raphtalia just wants to stab him. Like, it's basically giving you your worst fears, and I love how scared he was in that moment, because he truly has bought into Raphtalia being a true companion, someone who will stick by his side, and I love how, for that brief moment, he felt like the world was going to shatter once again. That's the type of detail I love that's carrying over episode by episode, that these past moments, these past developments are actually mattering, and when things could shake that dynamic up, it actually matters to these characters. Of course, we're going to have the typical Raphtalia is going to be a little flirty and going to be a little embarrassed when other females are close to Naofumi, but I like how that's not the focus of her character. That's just like an extra little quirk. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Her main character is remaining consistent and well developed. Having these extra elements that maybe I may not be overly fond of, it's not ruining her character, it's just extra for the fans who like it. You have Philo, who, yes, there is tropey and gimmicky aspects to her character, but that's just the extra elements for those fans who like it. Even if you don't like it, such as myself, her main character, it's entertaining. Hell, I love how often she just transforms into this bird. It's absolutely hilarious to see the size of this girl and how kind of vicious and cute she can be. It's an adorable character who isn't overly sexualized, and I appreciate that. The action in this episode, while it wasn't the flashiest and the most superb animation we've seen, it was fun and it got the job done. You're seeing this kind of cloudy atmosphere, their voices are being distorted, and then when you fight this almost Hercules-looking monster, I love how the team party worked, where you have characters supporting the other, and it isn't just a one-man show, where in the intro stages, it was just Naofumi defends, Raphtalia attacks. Now, we do actually have a core cast and a core party, and that's exciting because the more party members that he has that he can truly count on and depend on, which we know it will stay a small cast size. I don't know how large it will get, but I appreciate the core cast, the way they can work together and the way they can bring out each other's attributes. It's really interesting. You got all these kind of game-like mechanics, you know, the mana stats where each character is kind of good with one type of magic. You have their individual skills and the leveling up system with the shield. There's so much at play that actually makes these fights, even when they are basic like in this episode, they're actually pretty interesting to watch, even if they aren't the flashiest. A lot of anime go the route of making their fights overly flashy with little substance. Right now, you can criticize, hey, maybe the animation isn't the best we're seeing in an action anime, especially in an isekai as of late, but how many of those isekais are actually going the direction of actually fleshing out their game mechanics, their world mechanics, and how the fights are going to function? It's not just Raphtalia stabs the thing till it's dead. It's Naofumi has to complement Raphtalia. Raphtalia has to be stealthy. We have to have Philo do something, maybe pull our shield hero away, kick the beast in the face. There's actually party play here, which I don't get to see enough of, which is a little sad because this is the type of stuff you would actually expect most of these anime to have, but really they skim on the actual action details and go for flash over substance, where I prefer substance over flash. If we could have both, that's obviously the best outcome, but I'm glad that if we aren't always going to have the most over-the-top and flashy animation, we do actually focus on the core combat way more, and it makes action sequences, as simple as it may appear to be at first glance, actually mean something, which you don't get to see too often, especially in isekais with how saturated this genre has become. I definitely appreciate the fact that the more Naofumi does help people, and the fact that he isn't just helping people from the goodness of his heart, he does see people who are in need, that's why he enhanced the potion, but he does need things in return. He can't just be the white knight hero who just helps everyone and asks for nothing in return. No, he needs rewards, he needs a pay system, and if they don't have money, then give him goods. I love how that as he opens up, as he gets more and more shop owners kind of on his side, he's gaining this support, and you're also seeing that he's just kind of releasing his true character around people who deserve it. You know, the kingdom started him off, made him the devil, and yes, he's going to be the devil to those he needs to be the devil to, but he's also going to treat the general folk who probably don't even know his name, they might not even really realize what the shield hero is, he's not going to screw them completely over. But if Ban is threatened to basically claim he did him wrong, like the bitch in episode 1, then yeah, he's going to either rob them or feed him to his pet. Like, it's absolutely hilarious. The voice acting, though, I had to say, I think they casted Philo absolutely perfect. They nailed the bubbly and cute persona while also having a bit of bite to it as well, especially when she's in her kind of bird form. She feels both overly vicious and cute, and that's a voice that you really wanted to nail, so I think they casted it absolutely perfectly. But then again, the casting for the voice actors has been perfect up till now anyway. They have this way of actually being able to naturally come across like they're joking around with a group of friends, or be overly serious and depressed when it absolutely counts. This episode was fun. I do expect that this is going to be the type of episode, similar as last week, that it is going to shake some of the fans who were in it for the more dark and gloomy aspects away. But I think you have to realize that if it was just dark and gloomy 24/7 for this entire series, that would get boring rather fast, as much as you might think that this stuff could be boring. I think they do need to balance it out, and I expect there will be a couple more episodes before we get back to just the absolute brutality, but kind of easing us into the new cast dynamic and just what's going on with this world, I think is the right outcome. And right now I'm having a fun time, especially because they are actually taking tropes and gimmicks I generally despise and actually doing something with it. Sure, Philo is the newest cast member, we haven't seen nearly as much development and growth as we have for someone like Raphtalia, but this episode proved that this author isn't just a one-trick pony, and that they can actually develop a cast of characters with tropes and gimmicks to not only pander to the side that wants those, but also flesh it out and make it mean something for the side who generally despises those types of designs. The series is incredible. It's definitely one of the strongest of this anime season. I'm still loving it, still having a blast. The worst that you can really say, at least for myself, is that the visuals aren't totally popping 24/7, and that, yeah, they have been lackluster as of late, but I would rather the substance in the writing and the overall directing rather than it be flashy. I would rather flash and substance, but I'd rather take substance over flash any day of the week. Let me know whatever you thought of this week's episode of The Rising of the Shield Hero. Was it your favorite episode, your least favorite episode? What are you feeling about the new direction that they are going in this series? Do you love it or you hate it? Let me know. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy, and also hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. But until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.